customer organization. So when it actually comes to the time that one of these apps they are running becomes mission critical and they may want to buy a commercial license, they are much stronger power in-house champions to help that sales win that you might have to face against some traditional competitors, because you organize them up front. They know each other. They are credible in that they are already using it. They are already using it in a production environment, even if it may not yet be considered mission critical. These are strong arguments supporting that the single vendor open source firm is a believable provider of a good software that does what the customer company needs. And you wouldn't get any of that in a traditional closed source sales cycle where the customer wouldn't be using the software at all, where you would have to go through a prototype, evaluation, something, and you had to build up that trust right when the sales process starts. Open source builds up, this strategy of providing a free open source version builds up trust with potential customers way ahead of an actual sale. So yeah, I mentioned the in-house champion. So I think by focusing on just one business function, there are these benefits accruing to other business functions as well. But there are these many benefits, and they justify why you provide your software for free as open source, but then of course can follow up with commercial products, commercial license, operational comfort, meaning the support and update services, etc. And you're facing one final problem now, so let me address that too, which is that building this open source community that gives you all these benefits is fairly hard for a single vendor commercial open source firm, and it's probably where most of them falter. And that is because of the cost. If you have to support 1,000 non-paying users who don't make you any money, then you're quickly going out of business if you have to shoulder that support cost. So you absolutely want to lead your users to become a self-sustaining community. You want them to support each other rather than you having to provide the support resources. So for that, you need a new business function or need to substantially extend an existing business function, which I call community management here. All these single vendor open source firms like Alfresco, Jaspersoft, they have community managers. And their main performance goal set to them is that they should grow the community as fast as possible without incurring significant support cost, which means making the community self-supporting. So grow it as fast as possible, make it as large as possible, but also make it self-sustaining. That's actually a very hard skill to acquire for community managers, but it's crucial. So basically it means the community managers need to provide support, of course, in the beginning to get it started, but they try to lead the people who show up and who are the users to help each other. So they will not immediately answer questions. They'll wait a day or so before they answer questions and hope that others will answer it first. So they'll nudge existing users. They'll set up a social incentive system in the forums where you get points or where you get little tokens of appreciation or where you're being flown in for free to the user conference if you are actually a big time helper in these forums, etc., etc. So many different means of how you grow that community so that it becomes self-supporting, self-sustaining, and you don't incur the support cost that would otherwise bring down the startup, I'm assuming, right away. So so the research I'm doing here I'm interested in is actually finding out these best practices of the various business functions. This is far from being well understood. I showed you some best practices that I think one can be fairly sure about, certain about, but it's really just the beginning. And there's much more work to be done. It's certainly not in the research literature, but way too few people, in my opinion, actually working on it. And how to basically, in the end, get all of the benefits from that freeloading on one side community, but on the other hand, a community that provides you all that feedback and support and user innovation to let you go to market. I don't didn't repeat my slide here, but that lets you go to market faster with a superior product and sell more easily at lower cost. That was the original motivation how single vendor open source can beat out established closed source vendor firms. So let me close here. I think I'm a bit over time, but I see these different areas of economics research, all of them relevant, I think, to public policy. Community open source mostly for how to improve public welfare, how to give good quality software for free to everyone, how companies can build innovation without having to pay license fees in the first place. But then also single vendor commercial open source firms that are more like traditional software firms focused on earning money and becoming new players. It's disruptive, so it's a change in industry. It's the cards or the dice are thrown again, and everyone has a chance much more broadly on a worldwide scale, of course, to participate in that. Also, I didn't touch much on the labor market, but obviously life is changing for software developers as well. That's it from me. Thank you very much for your interest.